A lone gunman walked into a Manhattan office building and opened fire. 4 dead at least, including an NYPD officer, a Blackstone executive, and a security guard, and a young associate at a real estate firm. His name was Sean Tamora, and after executing 4 people, he turned the gun on himself. No manifesto and no explanation, just blood in the halls of New York City. This is Andy with TrendingPolitics.com. Hit like, subscribe, and let's get into this.
Bring in now Fox News contributor Ted Williams. Ted, too often we've had you on topics like this. What we're learning so far, what do you glean from all of this?
You know, Sean, let me offer my deepest condolences to the families of all of these individuals who are not going home tonight, and especially that law enforcement officer who was working security at 345 Park Avenue. From what I have been told, and it's unconfirmed, that this could very well have been employment related. And it appears as though when you look at the manner in which this guy is walking into that building with the gun in his right hand there, or that long rifle, and once he gets into the building and he goes up to the 32nd, 33rd floor, it appears to me that he has some familiarity with that building. So it's more likely than not that he has been in that building before. And but of course, we'll learn that at the press conference. But Sean, this is just senseless killing, something that you just would hope would not happen anywhere in America, but it happens, unfortunately, all too often. So what law enforcement is doing right now is they are working back. They realize that 345 Park Avenue is a crime scene. And you know, there are 44 floors in that building. And one of the things that they've had to do is to try to clear that building out, because quite naturally, individuals are scared and they're sheltered in place and they're having to go floor by floor in that building. But at the same time, you've got a crew of law enforcement officers who are also checking out video feeds in that area. They want to know where this guy came from. We know that there's a car allegedly that's associated with him. They're also checking that out. They will know what this guy ate for lunch today. And from what we've been told and you've reported here, there's some connection with the Las Vegas area. Quite naturally, law enforcement in New York is in touch with law enforcement there in the Vegas area, and they're doing a scrub out there. So these are some of the things that are going on. But Sean, I just want you to imagine a law enforcement officer get up, he puts that uniform on, he comes and he works security to earn extra money for him and perhaps even his family. And to be there and to get shot in the back, this is just senseless and cruel.
You know, Ted, as I said, we've talked over the years about too many of these cases. Educated guess here, not random, definitely targeted. He knew exactly where he was headed when he walked in that building. He went in there with a purpose. Again, we'll know more when we hear from law enforcement during their press conference, which we expect momentarily when that happens. It seemed like he knew exactly where he wanted to go.
He absolutely seemed like he knew where he wanted to go. We don't know if any of his perhaps targets are among the individuals injured or killed here on that scene. But he had a purpose, and he didn't want to even hide his purpose. I agree also with Paul Mauro, and that is he knew that it was more likely than not that he was not going to come out of that building alive because of the manner in which he walks in. He doesn't conceal the weapon. He just walks casually with the weapon at his side in his right hand, and he goes into the lobby. There's the shootout there, and he gets up to the 33rd or the 32nd floor there, and he takes his own life. From what we've been told here, he was neutralized, and he, by virtue of him taking his own life. Quite naturally, at the press conference, we're going to learn a lot more, perhaps about this individual. But in the coming days, we're going to learn quite a bit about this individual.
So right now, they're saying that this might be work-related, an office dispute, a firing, maybe a grudge. And yet the outcome is always the same. A building full of people who had no way to defend themselves because the laws are against them. Because this is New York City, where your only option is to hide and pray that the cops get there fast enough. But they didn't. 4 people are dead. An officer, a Blackstone executive, a security guard, and a young associate at the Rudin Management Company. All of them lived under the same disarmed regime. None of them had the option to fight back. That decision was made for them by politicians who will now go right back to blaming the gun while refusing to admit the truth. New York's laws don't protect anyone. They just disarm the innocent. And let's get real. If this was a personal vendetta, like they're saying, and that even makes it worse because it wasn't random. It wasn't chaos. It was targeted. And no one in that building had the legal right to carry a firearm to stop it. You would think that any of those executives, staffers, or security personnel were allowed to concealed carry. Of course they weren't. That's a felony in New York. The only people with guns in that building were the shooter and maybe the cop who died trying to stop him. That's what this gun control does. That's what it looks like. It looks like a society that's so obsessed with regulating the law-abiding that it forgets that the criminal doesn't care about our rules. But the politicians won't change a thing. They'll hold a press conference, say the usual lines, common sense gun reform, we need to do more, yada, 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 and then double down on some laws, on the same laws that everyone in the building were left powerless because of. They'll never admit that their policies guaranteed there would be no resistance. That's the part that they won't say out loud, because in New York City, the only self-defense that they allow is the hope that someone with a badge might show up and save them in time. And when they don't, you're on your own. And you're not allowed to act like it. And let me tell you, every person in that building was robbed twice. First by the shooter, then by the system that made sure that they had no chance. And if just one person had the ability to fight back, maybe this story ends a little bit differently. But in New York, self-defense is illegal. Carrying is nearly impossible. And defending yourself is only allowed after you're already dead. This wasn't just a failure of policy. It was a setup. Every law-abiding person in that building had been told for years, trust the system, wait for help, don't take matters into your own hands. And when it mattered most, the system didn't just fail, it vanished, it evaporated. No hero was allowed to exist there because New York made sure that the only people carrying guns were the ones either paid to wear a uniform or the ones who ignored the law entirely. And let's not forget, the politicians who write these laws every day, they're protected by armed security every single day. They don't walk into buildings defenseless. They don't sit through meetings wondering if someone who might come in with a grudge and a gun and nothing to stop them. They've carved out a separate reality for themselves, one where their lives are worth defending and yours is just a talking point. This shooting was a brutal reminder of what happens when the government decides that only criminals and police can have guns. Everyone else, you wait, you run, or you die. This is Andy with TrendingPolitics.com. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and I'll see you next time.